Welcome back to Wild Wine Life. We have Barry Waitte from Tamber Bay with us. Here's a question. What is your comfort food wine pairing?
That's to me, that's a softball lobby to me. And believe it or not, and I host a couple dinners every couple months in my house. It's a hamburger and a very aged Bordeaux.
Oh.
It's just two the out of the place kind of things. Just a good smash burger. But give me a 10, 20, 30-year-old Bordeaux. And I'm fortunate that I started collecting those when they were at least affordable of sorts long ago. So I've got still a little bit of a collection left. I enjoy that. And talk about passing the bottle. The other trick that I do is I pass the bottle, but I say, and I have to do this obviously with newer wines than an old Bordeaux, is, tell me something about that year that was significant to you. And again, talking about to the whole group. So that is one. I'll say another. We make a series of Pinot Noirs, all from Sonoma Coast and one from Santa Rita Hills. And I have a favorite pairing. My wife makes and we get a New Zealand salmon specifically. Ooh. It is very fatty, which is you just love. The white in it is amazing. And she found a specific rub. She makes kind of a mashed potato, but out of leeks. And of course, there's other sundry things around the plate. But the fat content of that is just oozing with a nice, I'm going to say, a fairly significant portion of blue fruited style Pinot Noir. And yes, I do make a couple of those. To me, that's one of my just favorite pairings. The salmon makes me feel like I'm healthy. So I get that. I just love it, though. It is, it's like no other salmon. It's actually poisoned me from eating other salmons because I need that big, fatty, greasy style to satisfy myself. So, Ray, if you stay with me for a second, it just made me think about, I get asked all the time, as an example, what's my favorite wine in my portfolio? And I sarcastically say, but with meaning, whatever wine's in my hand. Notwithstanding a tasting or something like that, I'm drinking a wine very purposeful. So it's by the side of a pool at 2:00 in the afternoon versus 9:00 at night. You and I are at the best steakhouse in St. Louis. Those are two very different wines, and they will be my favorite wines for that point in time. I say, let me change the question. If I knew for some reason tonight was the last night I get to drink wine for whatever reason, just this is it. I get to have one more bottle. I've been making a wine for 24 years. We don't make a lot of it. And it's what I call a blow your socks off type of wine. It's 100% Merlot. It comes from my vineyard in Yountville. I wish I could tell you why it is so good. My neighbors grow the same clone, same techniques, and they cannot get the same, what I'll call intensity of that front end fruit that we can get. So it's very terroir specific. And this vineyard is just north of the town of Yountville, right by the side of Yount Hill, big old hill, right on the Napa River. There's just something about that. We do, there it is. It's all about the terroir. It's all about place. And what I would suggest to you is if I could age that about 5 to 7 years, that's my wine. It is the most perfect wine. So fulfilling with fruit in the front, soft and supple in the back. Leaves no imagination of where we are. And that's my last one. So anyway, that was a tangent to your question.
No. You've actually been consistent, because I saw on another interview, you said your 100% Merlot would be your last wine.
Okay, so you saw that before, yeah.
Some people change things. I mean, you're very consistent. Now, when you're out fishing, what is your favorite? Is it what's in your hand, or do you have a favorite wine to take to fishing camp? And what's your favorite wine to go with some of the fish that you catch?
Well, look, if I'm fishing, as we say in the wine industry, it takes a lot of beer to make good wine. So I am on the boat with a beer, and I like a good red ale. This is something that I'm attracted to. A good wheat. I want something with substance, not some of these light processed beers. Campfire stuff. I'm going to do probably. I make some blends. I make both a right bank and left bank style blend. But the one that if I'm out on a campfire and I'm feeling kind of chewy, we make a Petit Verdot blend. It's called Tamber. Oof, it is a mean, bad wine, and but it's not straight Petit Verdot. So we pepper it up with at least 2, if not 3, different other varietals to just expand the flavor profile of this very earthy, structure-related wine. And if you're out in the wilderness, and the evening's getting kind of crisp and cool and so forth, this is a great wine. So when you invite me to that fishing trip, I'm bringing that bottle.
I think your rosé would be great to stay hydrated while fishing.
While fishing, yep.
And then that Verdot, Petit Verdot at night.
Yep. Like I said, point in time. Absolutely. Yeah, that rosé is a killer. Rosé all day, and as one of my hosts say, rosé all night.
I have to be careful with the rosé. I always jokingly tell people that I've become Eddie Murphy's dad and his Uncle Gus at family barbecues combined when rosé is involved. It's
yeah, I agree with you. It's a dangerous wine.
Now this quote by you is one of my favorites because it is the perfect athlete businessman quote if I've ever heard one.
Oh my gosh!
Not be able to fail. Nothing is wrong, and nothing is wrong with mitigating risk. How has that approach helped you in business, especially in the wine business, especially today?
Mitigating risk.
Well, you said don't be afraid to fail, but nothing is wrong with mitigating risk.
Right.
Some people don't want to even take the risk.
Exactly.
You've taken a lot of risks throughout your life.
But I'll argue in a sense that it's all been calculated, including riding on a horse 100 miles or river rafting down a class 5 and so forth. I mean, there's some risk. Playing polo, there's some risk. But I try to mitigate it to a certain point that my success of getting out of that event without any severe something is always there. In the wine business, I'll say not a failure, but something at the very beginning. I got really out of step with my business intuition. What I mean by that is, you spend 20 plus years in any profession. You gain an institutional knowledge of what to do, how to do, and it's almost like no matter what. It's back to that calmness we were talking about with like Margaret Thatcher and so forth, where she was dealing with major crises around the world, but yet she still held a level head. I left that behind in 1999. I left my rock of helping to manage and be in the technology industry, even though I wasn't a technologist. But my comfort, who to talk to if an issue came up, or I've seen this before. This is how we handle it. Let's evaluate this situation to see how similar, so forth and so on. So you have this institutional knowledge. I got up here, outside of reading a book and taking a few classes and drinking a ton of wine, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. So I pumped the brakes. I got into this slow. I wasn't one of those guys that wanted to build a winery with my name on it and put a big price or that kind of thing. No, I pumped the brakes. I got into this very slow. My first vintage was 2001, and they made 150 cases. That's 6 barrels. And the next year, I had enough confidence to double that. So we went to 300 cases and kept growing from there and then learning. I say it's not a mistake, but my cautiousness at that time, because I did not have that fulfillment of confidence to go forward, was I went slow. I wish I went faster. There was a point in time between 1999 And I'll say 2008 to 2010, certainly before the big recession that we got ourselves into, there was a time there, what I'll just call missed opportunity. And had I exercised a little bit more aggression into the business, that is just growing it, putting more marketing into it, getting a little bit broader distribution, things of that nature. Because in that period of time, the influx of the amount of wineries in the world, doubled, tripled, specifically in California, just in a short period of time. So the competitive landscape got messy, and still is. So I wish I either had the confidence or something, but that's a point in time. And my strategy was not to do it because I depended on my intuition to do a lot of things, and I just didn't have it at that time. Nowadays, we're fighting through other things today, but I feel like I can do it with confidence and know which way to go, and I can go toe to toe talking to it with my comrades, offering ideas, suggestions, suggesting that's not a way to go when someone brings up an idea. That's my risk analysis. But I'll just end on sport. I'm usually on the edge. That's my adrenaline junkiness. That right now, before a polo match, I literally have an upset stomach. And I don't care if it's just a backyard polo game or I'm in a big tournament. That first 2 minutes, or leading up to it, even worse, that first hour or that last hour leading up to it, in that first 2 minutes, I'm a mess. I'm a total mess. And I'm sure my horse feels it. What's going on with you? I have too much adrenaline. And I got to burn it out. But
your granddaughter will help.
Yes, she will. She'll temper this storm. I have no doubt.
Chasing, I was 39 for over a decade before I became a first-time father with twins, and I've noticed.
Oh my!
Oh yeah.
Oh my! There is a challenge. I couldn't even imagine. Now that I've seen my daughter and now my granddaughter go through this.
Oh,
at least you had 2 arms.
Yeah, I have 2 arms. I tell people, I go twins. The first 4 months with twins is a hangover with no alcohol for the first 4 months.
Yeah, there's always activity.
There's always activity.
No downtime. Yeah,
now, I do want to ask a little bit about the wine. One of the things as I was going through all your tech sheets is you have one wine that is 70% new oak. A lot of them are 60% new oak, but you use new oak very sparingly overall in your wines. I mean, that 60-70% is on your reds mostly. And I really like that. I mean, I remember back when your wines were available in Missouri, they were very fruit driven, that you use your oak as a spice rack and reduction pan, not being the only thing that people taste. I always tell people, I go, the best steaks are salt, pepper, one other spice. You should be able to taste the flavor of the meat. If you're tasting only oak, there's something wrong with the grapes and they're trying to hide it.
Yeah.
And that's what I really enjoy about your wines is you use oak sparingly.
A term that I learned early on before I got into business, and very much complicated by a winemaker that I joined up when I first got started, Thomas Rivers Brown, who you know quite well. The word balance comes to mind, just balance. And my definition of that for what you're talking about is there's all kinds of flavors. I mean, there's a tremendous contest going in your palate when you drink a wine. And you could say this about a lot of foods and other substances, but in wine, there's a great competition. And if the tannins or the barrel or the butter or whatever the things acts like a young adolescent, you're not going to hear anything else in the room. Therefore, you're not going to taste things in your mouth. And the use of new oak is definitely something that will impound things that will overstep the fruit flavors. Just to start and end on that one. So using less new oak and some other used barrels, second use and a little bit of third use. Um, and another technique that Thomas actually brought to play, because I didn't realize this, when you have a vintage, like right now we're on the 2022 Cabernets, the federal government allows us to put 5% of another vintage into that wine, and we don't have to tell you. It's actually more in France, by the way. They have a larger percentage. So at 5%, how can you use that to your advantage? And if the contest is somewhat, that I feel, is to make the wine approachable on the get-go. And I'm not talking about price yet, though we try to stay in that category, but approachable, that I open that bottle and I don't have the virtue of being able to decant it necessarily like in a restaurant. You open a bottle, you're going to drink it right away. By using the later vintage of a wine. So our 2022s has up to 5% of the 2023 of the exact same juice. But that wine was only in barrel for about 6 months. So it doesn't have that meaty input, but it has a lot of brightness. It has some juiciness to it that helps with all these other things that we do to make wines very approachable on the onset, but doesn't deter its ageability at all. Because we still are using barrels, we're still driving chemistry into the wine to where that wine should last 20 plus years. But at the end of the day, I want people to drink my wine. So I use that approachability a lot in my visions of talking to our folks here, both price and making the wine. It's approachable. It's not a very romantic term, but I think a lot of people could get it, that you can drink it and I like this. This is good. And certainly for a series of wines, the ones you're familiar with, the Ducheval Cabernet and our Rabicano, those wines are so approachable. You could easily put them on a table at a restaurant, pull the cork and pour it, and everybody's going to be happy. And it's affordable.
That's
Napa-centric affordable, but affordable.
Yeah. I've always enjoyed them. You get a great value. And what I like about the wines is you give the consumer the ability to choose, for example, 2018. That's something I've been loading up on. That's the twins' birth year. So you give me the option to either drink it on a birthday, when I want to celebrate their birthday, for keeping them, being able to successfully make it to the next birthday.
Good luck with that.
Or come home from a very rough day and just being able to pop it open right here and now. But you give me the option. You're not forcing it on me. And some wineries do not do that. They're like, we're going to crank it out, and when it's ready to drink, it's ready to drink, but it may not be upon release. And you actually have them ready to drink or hold upon release. So
classic French winemaking would suggest that they build a wine that is built for age. That's all they did for years and years. So there's a lot of tradition into that. I respect that. There's also another influence, Ray, that I'm sure you're aware of. I don't know if you agree with it, but the advent of our wine critics, and more recent than not, have really promoted, in my opinion, an out of balance of just bigness.
Yeah.
Big, rip the enamel off my teeth kind of flavor or texture and that grades a good wine. And unfortunately, I think they're educating the audience the wrong way for what that is. And the French, I think, would agree. They're not building wines to rip your teeth off.
No.
Right.
When I recommend a wine on Wild Wine Live, I say I do not assign a score. I go, this is the taste profile that I like about the wine. If this is what you like in the taste profile, then this is a wine you should consider. And anybody can make the big enamel. It's the Parkerization of wines rather than
name drop.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunately for 20 years. I mean, at one point, I asked a wine buyer. He goes, "What's the score in Parker? What's the score in Parker?" And I go, "Is it your name that's on the sign or his? You know, can
That's
you
right.
can you decide what to buy without Robert Parker or any other wine critic?" I mean, I tell people, I go, look at how the wine critic describes it and look at the taste profile. Ignore the number because there is personal issues that a wine critic will have with a winery owner or a winery or a bad day. That I've
Yeah.
heard stories of somebody at the winery pissing off some wine review person, and for 20 years they never got a good review in the magazine.
Yeah. It's one person's opinion, and yeah, and at some of these tastings, which the big ones happen out here, some wine critic might taste through 300 wines in a day. I just hope I'm not on the end of that one. That's it's just it's kind of unfortunate, but I understand why it's there. That scores are helpful to people because wine is very complex. You can't judge a wine by its label. So some people that's what they buy. There's two types of wine buyers: the ones that buy it for what's on the label and for what's behind the label, right? And I remember a customer here came and tasted through some of my high-end wines and thought this is one of the first wineries I've been to where I liked every single one of them. And when it came time to put the sales hat on and say, "What are you going to do?" And he says, "What kind of scores do you got?" And I said, "Well, I just gave you wines that are brand new. We don't have scores." He says, "Well, let me know when you get scores."
And it won't be here.
Well, they may not be here. You just tasted them. What up?
Yeah.
Anyway,
I did a video and I said, buying wine should be like in Star Wars where Obi-Wan told Luke, your eyes can deceive you, use the force. I tell people, ignore the score, trust your palate.
totally,
You know,
totally.
your palate, use your palate.
Well, us wine guys that either own or make wine and so forth. I mean, it's a love-hate relationship with all these characters, and unless they adopt you, which you can actually kind of see where that might happen in some cases, just by looking at scores and then tasting the wines and going, "I'm not too sure about that." Yeah, it's a love-hate because they never give you the score you want, and it's only one person's opinion.
Yeah.
Good day, bad day. Where are you in the lineup? All these criteria come into play. Yeah. Anyway, there.
So you're not in every state. How can people buy wonderful Tamber Bay products?
Ray, when you and I met each other, we were expanding our distribution not away from, but in addition to our direct to consumer business. Because I started as selling wines only from the winery or from us directly, and then started expanding in the States. And very fortunate to get into Missouri. And then, and it's not part of the question, but 2022 was 2020. Sorry. A bad year for us in Napa because of smoke taint and fire. So we didn't make any red wine. So I had to retract a lot of my distribution in the markets. We're now back into it. So to answer your question, though, the best way to get wines from us is us directly. If people are interested in a discount, we have a very robust club program. And that's the one thing my daughter manages brilliantly. But you can get it from us. For those, we're in Florida, Texas, New York, a little bit in California. I'm kind of disappointed in my home state that we don't have a better distribution model here. In Illinois, those are, we're in the big five in some degrees. With a little bit of luck, I'm going to be back in Missouri and some other points around the Midwest, including Iowa. Talking to them, we have a very good distribution partner and have for 13 years in Oklahoma and in Nevada. So you can kind of see our wines there. But to answer your point, still about 85-90% of our wine is still sold direct to individuals. The best way to look at it, and I make 16 wines, and only 5 are technically available for wholesale. Almost all of it is just direct to here. And in those wines, those other 12 to 14 wines, I only make 100 to 350 cases. So they're limited. So I can't really put them in distribution. But our club members take advantage of that. and they get most of that juice.
So tamberbay.com, they can join your wine club.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Rosé that you make very little of.
Well, yeah, you've got to figure out how to get more juice out of that vineyard. We only make about 650 cases.
I saw,
but it's
one of your
fabulous.
Chardonnays, you only do 130.
Pardon me?
One of your Chardonnays, I think, you listed only 130 cases.
Yep. Sometimes,
your
there's
Nacito Vineyard Chardonnay in the Santa Maria, it's 177 cases.
Yep. Yeah, Bien Nacito, what a fabulous vineyard, Central Coast. We make that particular Chardonnay in a Grand Cru style. I'll say not California style. Getting back to balance. I think the likes of some of our California winemakers with Chardonnay got way over the skis in pumping in butter and oak flavors and created a market for it. So good on them to do that. But that's not my jam. I need to feel that fruit first before you start integrating those other, what I'll call textual notions in your palate. And Bien Nacito gives us some fantastic fruit to that. I make another one of the same style out of my vineyard, Duchereau vineyard. So if you're of that, I'm going to drop a name. If you're of that Montrachet or Marseille style of Chardonnay, yeah, I got one for you. I got two.
Well, I truly appreciate you joining me. I have a list of questions, but you have a busy schedule. So hopefully anytime you ever want to join me here on Wild Wine Live, you're more than welcome, whether on Zoom or in person. Barry, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And I look forward to going fly fishing with you sometime.
Yeah, let's do that. Ray, it was great to catch up again, and wish you all success. Pleasure to talk to your audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.